Why do I say that? Well, the story that just came out over the weekend, the current CEO of Nike in an earnings meeting says Nike is a brand that is of China and for China. Will there be any branding implications for the swoosh folks right here in the good old US of A? Let's talk to a genuine American who knows whereof he speaks, a branding advisor to CEOs, the author of the new book, Intra Branding, The Keystone of Corporate Agility, Mark Rudov. You can find him at marcrudov.com. We've spelled it out. Mark, welcome to the program.
Great to be with you, JD.
Tell me now, branding has kind of become a buzz phrase for a lot of people, and I don't know if they're exactly using it in the right way, but when we hear the CEO of Nike say Nike is a brand that is of China and for China, what are the implications for that brand in the United States?
That's a very good question. First of all, let me do a level set here. A brand is not a product. It's not a company. It's not a name. It's not a logo. A brand is the emotional connection that customers have with a vendor. So I don't own anything Nike anymore because I hate the company because of what it stands for. So my emotional connection with Nike is hatred. I found a pair of tennis shorts that I bought a long time ago with the Nike swoosh on them. They were machine embroidered, and I spent 45 minutes with tweezers and a knife taking that whole logo out of there because I didn't want anybody on the tennis court to think that I was a supporter of Nike. Now, what's happened here with John Donahue, the woke leftist supporter of China, what he's saying is F you to America. China owns Nike, and Nike owns the NBA and the NFL. It's as simple as that. And China has a population of 1.4 billion, and the United States has a population of 340 million, so that's one-third. So they don't care anymore, and their actions and their words underscore that.
And so
it's not just Nike. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I want to hear more about some other organizations. And boy, we've seen some crazy stuff go on through the years with American business in China. But I want to stick with a Nike theme for example, and
Sure.
Go elaborate a little more because of the whole notion of branding. You're very emotional against Nike, but I'm trying to figure out the appeal. A couple of years ago, after Colin Kaepernick did his big kneeling and became Mr. Protester, of course, he's now out of the NFL, a spot was put together, and I guess the notion was linkage. Closed circuit to our capable producer engineer. This will be cut number 8. It looks like, as we prepare to listen to this, it looks like the branding ad guys at Nike try to link Colin Kaepernick's dissent with other types of challenges. Listen to just a portion of the ad. Cut 8.
Believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything. If you have only one hand, don't just watch football, play it. And if you're a girl from Compton, become the greatest athlete ever. Yeah, that's more like it. So don't ask if your dreams are crazy. Ask if they're crazy enough.
All right, this is crazy enough. What is the method to the madness? Is it the intensity of the woke community that'll stick with Nike?
You know, when that ad came out, I wrote an article saying that Nike would suffer, and I was completely wrong. And I'll tell you why. I underestimated how much wokeness is being taught in our schools. And the kids coming out of schools today hate our country, and they love China. They love communism. They love socialism. They hate America. They hate Americans. They hate capitalism. So when he did that ad, the the millennials and the Gen Zers just loved it because that was pegged to their training. And he portrayed himself as a victim, and victimhood sells today. When I grew up, you would have been laughed out of any arena by acting the way Colin Kaepernick acts. And I wrote an article on Newsmax back 5 years ago, in August of 2016, saying that he would destroy the brand of both the San Francisco 49ers, where he was the quarterback, and the NFL. And I was right about that. Both of them suffered. But when it comes to purchasing merchandise, the victimhood, and it's all about me, and they're after me, and I'm a loser, and oh boy, the kids love that because that's why they're being taught, and that's the method to the madness. That's why it's succeeding, because of the indoctrination these kids get in our public/government schools.
Wow. Our guest is Mark Rudov, branding advisor to CEOs, author of Intra Branding, the Keystone of Corporate Agility. You can find him at markrudov.com, MARCRUDOV. Mark, let me continue. Talk about corporate agility. I may be using this in the wrong way, but continuing with the theme of China, I can recall when there was a recall of the Hot Wheels cars from Mattel, the little tracks and everything, because the Chinese were using lead-based paint. It was poisonous. It violated all the FTC stuff. And yet Mattel, talk about corporate agility or cowardice, they wrote a letter of apology to the Chinese government when it was the Chinese guys in their own volition using the lead-based paint. Does it just come down to greed and cowardice?
Absolutely. Pecunia outweighs patriotism, and pecunia is Latin for money. Let me tell you what Devin Nunes said just today. He's the top Republican on the House Intelligence Committee. He said China is a malign influence on the world in general and on America in particular. They are targeting, among other things, corporate America, bribing and coercing U.S. businesses to do Beijing's bidding, including handing over highly sensitive technologies and trade secrets. American businesses need to be aware of China's predatory actions, and those who aid and abet them need to be held to account. Now, I don't believe that the House or the Senate is going to hold anybody to account because they never do. But,
well, here's what we're going to hold to
right
account. We're up against the clock. Mark Rudolph, can you stay with us for the next segment?
Absolutely.
Great. Mark Rudolph will stay with us. We got to brand China the outlaw nation that it is. We'll talk more about that when we come back. It's J.D. for Lars. Friendly amendment. It's guest host J.D. Hayworth, and along with me via telephone, our good friend Mark Rudolph, branding advisor to CEOs, the author of his new book, Intra Branding, the Keystone of Corporate Agility. Earlier, Mark authored the book, Brand is Destiny. Now, Mark, before the break, we were talking about China. And this is in the wake of the report that Nike's chief executive has been quoted as saying that Nike is a brand that is of China and for China. Do you expect, because we know the association that Phil Knight had with the state of Oregon and still has, the Great Pacific Northwest, do you expect one day to see Nike just up and pull up stakes and head for Shanghai? Or what's going to happen?
That's a good question. I have no idea, but it's certainly virtually located in Beijing. All of corporate America now has gone woke, and the allegiance is no longer to America. It is to the World Economic Forum in Geneva, Switzerland. And most CEOs are focusing on ESG scores. That's environmental, social justice, and governance. And the more woke they are, the higher the ESG score. And there's a company called BlackRock, which is the largest money manager in the world. And it manages about $9 trillion. And Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, has told CEOs of corporations, if you don't have a high ESG score, if you're not down with climate change, and if you're not putting transgenders and blacks and whatever we say in your companies, then you're going to have a low ESG score, and we will not lend you money. You will not be able to trade your stock. So they're all outdoing each other for who is the wokest. And this wokeness is not only in corporate America, it's in government, it's in the military, it's in financial institutions, it's in sports, it's in big tech, mainstream media, and healthcare. I call this panoramic Marxism. It's everywhere. And I blame the Republicans for allowing this to happen. Now, Nike is just one of many. Look what happened recently with John Cena, the wrestler, who's in F9, the latest of the Fast and Furious franchise. He was begging on his knees in Mandarin for forgiveness from China. Why? Because he referred to Taiwan as a country. Look at the movie Top Gun 2, which is imminent. It was delayed because of COVID. But in the original Top Gun movie, Tom Cruise, who played Maverick, had a patch on his leather jacket that was from the USS Galveston, which did a tour of Asia. And it had a patch. On the patch was a flag from Taiwan and a flag from Japan. But in Top Gun 2, Tencent Pictures from China is partly producing and distributing this movie. And they said, you have to get rid of that patch. So now it only has the American flag and the UN flag. Look at the movie The Martian with Matt Damon. He was an astronaut who got stranded on Mars, and the crew found out about it after they were headed back to Earth, and they had to turn around and go get him. And the only way to do that was for the hero to come through to save the day, and the hero was China. Now, NASA is forbidden from cooperating with China in any way. But they made an exception for this movie because it sold tickets in China. We have been cooperating with Russia in space, but Russia's not in there. You have to understand that China is a big part of American culture. When's the last time you and your friends went out for Russian food? How about never?
Yeah.
But you go out for Chinese food. So China is built in. And when China opened up its gates to let American tourists in, people came back, oh, we saw the Great Wall of China. When's the last time you heard anybody say, we were in Red Square in Moscow? Never. You just don't hear that. So China has been glamorized, and people have a hard time accepting that it is really the enemy. It's like a giant octopus. It has its tentacles in our corporations, in our schools, and with these Confucius Institutes, and it's warping everything. And because people are so greedy and they love money so much, they don't care. They're allowing it to happen.
Well, let me move to that money situation, if I can, for just a second, because it spurs this question. You talked about World Economic Conference and what goes on in Geneva.
World Economic Forum.
I'm sorry, yes, World Economic. Yes, that's right, the organization. There's been a lot of speculation that what's been happening here is part of a whole currency change. Do you expect the Chinese unit, their equivalent of the dollar, the yuan, to now overtake and become the dominant currency, or what's going on with that?
Well, it's just a couple of weeks ago that our illustrious out-to-lunch president, and I think his name is Joe Biden. I hate to say president and Biden in the same sentence.
Or you can do like Tom Tancredo does. He calls him president in name only, Pino Biden.
Well, he said that China wants to overtake America, and it is happening. CNBC, I did one of my videos at markrudov.tv. I show a graph that CNBC put out, and only in 8 years, the Chinese economy is going to overtake the American economy. And the Biden administration, such as it is, doesn't even care. So I think that your question is a good one, because I think it's inevitable unless we fight back, unless we have a real leader in the Oval Office. We can't do anything about it now. So,
well, Mark Rudolph,
this is the course we're on, JD.
Well, I want to thank you for your sober-minded warning. And I want to remind people, if they want to find out more about branding, Mark Rudov is the branding advisor to CEOs. He's the author of Intra Branding, the keystone of corporate agility. You can find him at his website, markrudov.com, MarcRudov. Mark, thank you for spelling it out for us this evening on the Lars Larson Show.
It's been my pleasure, JD. And by the way, if you're a woke CEO, don't even call me.
Good idea. We know who you want to work with, folks who really care about the U.S. of A., the red, white, and blue instead of red China. Mark, it's a privilege. We appreciate your insights and your analysis.